So we see a lot of registers here, but we also see a couple other methods being called. So if we looked at our framework, because at this point we're pretty familiar with how the instantiation of the framework goes, it takes a couple of parameters. We have to find a way to pass those parameters in the first time we instantiate this framework object. So you can see here that we're passing a dispatcher and we're passing a resolver. These names actually correspond to other dependencies that we've defined up above. So resolver is here and dispatcher is right here. This new reference allows us to reference other dependencies inside our dependency injection container from within the container itself. So this will actually do what we did in front.php with the container get here. And so these instances will be created and used later if they need to be. So you see arguments being set for several of these dependencies. Most of the time it's by using new reference. Up here though, we're using routes directly because we can rely on this from our front.php file where we define routes as the contents of app.php. Now it seems like there should be a better way to do this, like we're not using global variables anywhere else, so there must be some better way to use this routes inside of our container. And we'll talk about that in a couple of steps. The only other method that we see here is add method call. The idea here is that sometimes when we instantiate an object, we want to run some methods on it right away because by itself, it's not going to be useful. And every time we access it, we're going to want to get it after certain methods have been called. In this case, with the dispatcher, we're going to want to grab the dispatcher with all of our subscribers already added. So that's what we're doing here. We're running register, and then we're chaining it with add method call, chaining it meaning that we're taking the return value of register and we're running another method on it, add return method call, and then we chain that several times. And here's where we add all of our subscribers. We're adding the routing, response, exception, and our string response, which is the one that we made ourselves. At this point, we can still add more subscribers simply by grabbing the dispatcher instance inside of our dependency injection container and then running the add subscriber method there. But as part of this bootstrap process, whenever we want dispatcher, we're going to want all of these subscribers added anyway. So kind of a good rule of thumb is that pretty much any time you want to instantiate an object in your code, as long as it's not a controller, most of the time controllers are fine to instantiate by themselves, you're going to want to wrap it in the dependency injection container. There's several layers to why dependency injection containers make sense. One of them is that testing becomes even easier because now all of our objects are instantiated in one place. So if we want to replace these with mock objects, we can do that in one location. We simply include a different container PHP file, and then we know right off the bat that we'll be able to test anything that leverages the dependency injector.